Hello there. Bit of a fun one today because there's a Labour Party scandal and lots of councillors have been presumably um, in trouble, called to quit, all sorts of stuff. And what we're going to be doing is looking at what needs to be said to get kicked out of the Labour Party, because what I heard was thousands of left-wing voices calling out, I fear something based has happened. So Diane Abbott has called for MPs to quit, which, of course, who cares what she has to say. But I'm going to read the article because it tells you what is said in the WhatsApp messages, which very rarely happens with the British press, because usually something is deemed offensive and then none of the media repeat it, so you don't know where the line is, and people just are forced to be overly conservative with a small c, as in overly cautious, and not say anything remotely close to being offensive because you don't know where the line is drawn. So, Labour has launched an investigation after two Labour MPs were found to have made unacceptable and deeply disappointing comments in a WhatsApp group. The party is under pressure to act following Sir Keir Starmer's suspending, so he did suspend some people from Labour and removing the former from his role as Health Minister because of controversial texts they sent. Mr. Ryan was reported by the Mail to have sent the messages in the same Trigger Me Timbers WhatsApp chat. It's interesting that that's a Labour Party WhatsApp title. Because, of course, they're talking. It sounds like they're mocking people getting triggered about stuff, and it sounds anti-woke almost. Maybe it was, who knows. Where Mr. Gwynn sent the offending messages. Ooh, by the way, I still don't think, there should be any criminal charges for people saying anything. I don't think that any word or any phrase or any sentiment is so offensive that it deserves you getting arrested. However, I'm not going to lose too much sleep from people in the Labour Party because they are my political enemies, and I don't care. And it carries on to say, both men have apologised over the text and remain MPs at the time of writing, albeit with Mr. Gwynn now sitting as an independent. Now Diane Abbott has called everyone involved in the group chat to stand down from their positions in the Labour Party after seeing the text contained racist remarks about her. Well, they weren't really racist remarks. They were actually mocking the Labour Party's attitude towards race, if anything. In the past, we would have viewed them as the people who are not the racist, but hey, who cares? I don't care about accusations of racism anymore. It just is a marker of, if someone gets called racist, normally it means they have something good to say. That's what it's taken to mean these days in politics. Speaking to Sky News, she said, they were offensive remarks. In 2025, people should know better than to go in for that kind of racist and sexist verbiage. Ooh. I like a healthy diet of racist and sexist verbiage. Can't even say the words. It's not even in my vocabulary to say that nonsense. Here she's referring to the 12 other people thought to be in the WhatsApp group who have not yet been publicly named. They have. Who cares? They're just some random councillors, mostly. So it says, after the Prime Minister initially sacked Andrew Gwynn over his WhatsApp messages, Burnley MP Oliver Ryan has also been removed from his position. Mr. Ryan, who became an MP last July, reportedly made the comments alongside other members in the group. Blah, 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 blah. So far, just tell us what they said. There we go. I'm going to skip that bit because it's annoying me. Long-winded articles. So it says, Andrew Gwynn, yes, you've mentioned him about 5 times already. The MP for Gorton and Denton is said to have made sexist comments about Angela Rayner, racist remarks about Labour MP Diane Abbott, and joked that he hoped a 70-year-old woman croaked it after she complained about her bins. And I think, although it will be presented as a member of the Labour Party having contempt for ordinary people, and they certainly do, I think the nature of his comments here, specifically, to be completely fair, seems like he's just appealing to the other representatives just making crass jokes, the kind of which, you know, if you've worked in like a customer service job, people say this sort of thing, just like, yeah, my job is bad. I like to make dark jokes that I don't actually mean to sort of tolerate it. There's that sort of thing. That's the sort of vibe I'm getting. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did mean it. But that's just what I'm getting from this. And he apparently said, this is according to the article, "Dear residents, F your bins. I'm re-elected, and without your vote, screw you. P.S. Hopefully you'll have croaked it by the all-outs." So, considering he's saying that in an internal WhatsApp to other, you know, Labour councillors or MPs or whatever, whoever's in there, it seems to me that he's sort of over-egging his opinions, being hyperbolic for humour's sake rather than anything else. According to the Mail, he also made anti-Semitic slights and joked about a constituent being mowed down by a truck when the resident asked for a motorcycle lane. And again, this is just someone being frustrated by the sort of day-to-day of their job. I don't actually think that they want the person to be mowed down. I mean, they do mention here that it was a joke. People are reading it as such, to be fair. So I'm not being completely baseless. Of course, we should not be making excuses for them necessarily. I'm just trying to be fair to people who already, you know, probably dislike them. If you're watching this video, we're not fans of the Labour Party, right? But we can still be reasonable, even though, you know, I don't care about these people. You know, something being bad for the Labour Party and being bad for them is good for me, as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, I am sort of enjoying this at the same time. Mr. Gwyn's message to the group reportedly said, "I had a positive vision of him getting mowed down by an Elsa Waste HGV while he's cycling down the Fallowfield Loop, which is a cycle lane. We couldn't be that lucky." And of course, by being so incredibly specific, it makes it funnier. That's obviously a joke. Of Diane Abbott, who became the first black parliamentarian to represent their party during Prime Minister's questions, one member of the WhatsApp group is said to have asked, "Who's ready for Diane at PMQs?" Of course, she's famous for not being particularly put together and not being a particularly good public speaker, and for lots of gaffes and embarrassments. So they're basically just referencing that, right? Mr. Gwyn responded, "Yep, because it's Black History Month apparently." And another response reportedly read, "Was David Lammy not available?" As if to say, well, this is just mocking the party's attitude to race, right? It's like, well, we've got one black person, but why not use another one that can at least speak publicly without sounding as stupid? I mean, there's a bit of a close call. I'd also take the corpse of Bernie Grant, who was a black Labour MP who died in the year 2000. I'm not laughing at him dying, by the way. I'm laughing at the fact that they're implying that the best representative for the Labour Party is someone who can't speak, which is funny. And then they go on to say something actually quite funny that made me laugh when I read it. Mr. Gwyn retorted, "Or Desmond Swayne or Justin Trudeau," of course, both of which known for going in blackface, if that matters to you, at fancy dress. Who cares? It's just black paint. It doesn't mean anything. Also, imitating something doesn't mean that you're mocking them. You know, one Halloween I dressed as a Mexican. I didn't, necessarily think I'm doing this to stick it to the Mexican people. It's just that I wanted to wear a poncho and I had a sombrero, and I knew very few people would be dressed as one. Very scary, if you live on the southern border, to be fair. So it carries on to say, the MP for Gorton and Denton also allegedly said someone sounded too Jewish and referred to a local Labour leader, Colin Bailey, as Colin Coomface, I'm gonna say. I don't know why he called him that. That's funny. In 2021, Angela Rayner faced criticism for claiming a £249 Apple wireless headphone on expenses. I don't know why I said singular, it's headphones. You don't have a single headphone, one ear. For for which Mr. Gwynn reposted a tweet from a parody account which made lewd references and poked fun at her working class background. The tweet reportedly read, so this is not even something he said, but something he posted. I don't see what the problem is. It's literally impossible to give a B star star, I think I know what that word is, an oral sexual act, while wearing wired headphones. Anyone with a similar background to Angela would understand this. I'm sorry, but that's funny. It's funny. Who cares? You know, people make these kinds of jokes about themselves, and it's only in politics where a big deal is made about this. And I think one thing, actually, while I'm on it, that fuels the desire to censor the public and how MPs justify it to themselves, in part at least, other than it being malevolent and sort of ideological, is that they have to go through strict speech policing to remain as a political candidate. And so they think, well, if this is the standard for me as a politician, well, why don't we apply these sorts of censorious and strict standards to the public at large if I have to go through it? It's worth bearing in mind, because I never hear people talk about that. And yet I think it would be a very important aspect of how many of these politicians justify it to themselves, how they get to sleep at night. They could also just be psychopaths and not care. Mr. Ryan, a gay man, is said to have mocked an unnamed male Labour MP who has never discussed his sexuality publicly and is not known to be gay. It's funny how they cover for that. He's also said to have used an offensive nickname to refer to local Labour leader. You've just mentioned that, you stupid article. Sorry, Standard. You're a non-paywalled article that also lists what is said, unlike most of them. And both men have apologised. Mr. Gwynn tweeted, "I deeply regret my badly misjudged comments and apologise to any offence I've caused. Blah, 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 cookie cutter. I entirely understand the decision of the PM and the party have taken. While very sad to have been suspended, will support them in any way I can." Lame. And then Ryan tweeted, "Between 2019 and early 2022, I was a member of a WhatsApp group created by an MP and former employer, Andrew Gwynn. Some of the comments made in that group were completely unacceptable and I fully condemn them." Don't apologise. Don't be lame. I know you're a Labour MP, so I don't care. But anyone else, you know, if people come after you for this sort of thing, own it. Just don't be lame. Don't be, ooh, I'm going to get cancelled. Oh, everyone's going to think I'm horrible. Everyone knows their jokes. Double down on it. Nothing will happen to you. Look at loads and loads of public figures who've just been like, yeah, it's ridiculous that people are taking exception to this. Stop being so weak and lame. Actually, they become more popular. Just saying. They're not even, you know, politically astute enough to realise that perhaps bending the knee makes you look weak and pathetic, which it always does, no matter the context. And it says, it carries on to say, "I did not see every message, but I accept responsibility for not being more proactive in challenging what was said." You have this in the police quite a lot, where if you're in a WhatsApp group, if you don't challenge them actively in the group, you get in trouble. So saying nothing is also seen as bad. And we're seeing the sort of origin point of this here. I also made some comments myself, which I deeply regret and would not make today. And for that, I wholeheartedly apologise. I will cooperate, blah, 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 blah. But the point being is that where is this kind of Labour Party? I want these people in charge, the ones that have a sense of humour, that seem to be anti-woke and anti-PC culture. They're probably in the party because of the economic stuff. You know, these guys don't look like they're diversity hires. And you know, they're just having a good bit of British banter, a good back and forth. And yeah, it's just some more bad news for the Labour Party, which is why I wanted to talk about it. But the fact some of it's funny is also a bonus, really. But yes, even though things are not going great for Keir Starmer, it seems that they're going worse because their you know, credentials as being, you know, this woke, what can I call it? It's sort of like a religious cult, in a sort of culty, woke Labour Party, which seems to go down well with their own supporters, at least. is tarnished because of this sort of thing, and it's going to further alienate the leftward side of the party, which are already erring towards the Greens and all sorts of other things, because they're not right. They're not left wing enough. Sorry, I think they're not right wing enough. But yes, it's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to bring Starmer down or anything, but it's just another, straw on the camel's back, and eventually, there's going to be one scandal that will hopefully bring him down, because it's piling up now. It's really happening, and he's not popular. Nothing's going well for them. I think if anything, things are going to get worse. So hopefully we'll see an end to the Labour Party. This is just another thing that could, slowly edge us towards that conclusion.